from the window and said, this is holy ground. Don't take off your shoes here in our gift shop. So, in conclusion, regarding the Temple Institute, of course, the approach toward the future is active anticipation. The temporal perspective is the future. The temple will be. The future is not understood as difficult, but rather as something to aspire to. And the place in proximity, which is also a historical and a religious space, is only a stop or a step on the way to the Temple Mount. Finally, I basically suggested here a way to include the future in the discourse regarding memory. When we talk about memory, we usually talk about the present, we sometimes talk about the past, but here I argue that it is the things to come, or the image of things that might occur that actually influence our interpretation of space and time. I also presented the notion of place and proximity. It can be understood in different ways, either as the foundation stone of our existence, an archaeological space, or just a bridgehead towards something else. And finally, I think my suggestion regarding the connection between the element of time and space is not completely, should be thought on a little bit more, but too little have been written, I think, about the connection between space and time in relation to memory, and I would be very happy to hear your thoughts on the subject. Thank you very much.
And, thank you very much for very lively presentation. And now the reviewer, Rūta, would you like to? Okay.
Yes, thank you for this interesting text. It was really interesting. Yes, it was really interesting to read it. Firstly, I would say that this text is very actual because Jewish memory here is interpreted from nowadays perspective, which is complex and equivocal and so on, because Jewish, as you said, Jewish self-declare religiousness vary from secularity to radical orthodoxy. And it was really interesting to see the different perspectives of nowadays. And the novelty of this text is looking to the future perspective. Usually we talk about consequences of the past, how different past experiences affect us, affect our nowadays understanding. And here you talk about how future images affect understanding of the past, and it's really interesting. And I think maybe suggestion to talk about the circle between future and the past, between the future and the past, because we understand the past, how future affects the understandings of the past, and otherwise where are these future images? From what past are these future images? And this interesting, I would say, hermeneutical circle here would be productive, in my opinion. So I would give some more remarks from my own hermeneutical perspective. From this perspective, I looked at this text. From this perspective, there are no facts, only interpretations. It's interesting statement, which sometimes can show doubtful, but I will explain what I mean. Of course, I don't say that there are no facts at all, that we reject facts of history which have some date and some time. Of course, no. Of course, we have some historical facts which undoubtedly had a huge influence on our present and our nowadays understanding and so on. But I mean that these facts are always differently interpreted, and this text shows it very well, because I would say maybe the same facts which sometimes like very similar are interpreted differently from the same time perspective. Not talking already about perspective, changing perspective in the course of history. And this changing, fluctuating interpretations are very important. And that's why we can't say we can't answer the question what was real true, what is real, what are the real facts. We can't answer to this question once and for all. We can't write some book where all these facts would be explained once and for all, because we can't write such book. Always are interpretations. We talk only about different interpretations. Of course, these interpretations may vary very much, but they are only interpretations, our understanding from our perspective. And looking from hermeneutical point of view, it's very important confluencing of two perspectives, of the past and the present. Past and present perspectives, because we always interpret from our perspective of the present. We can't reject it. We can imitate, then reject it, but we can't reject it really, because our interpretations are always distorted by our own understanding. Or we could say these interpretations are always revitalized by our own understanding, because they can't be, we can't say originally what was real, what was history real from perspective of the past, because we always talk from perspective of the present. And here, returning to your text, you talked about future perspective. It was really interesting and novel, as I said already. And interesting that you showed how future images depend on different nowadays perspectives. How different future images depend on different nowadays perspectives. And you show these perspectives once more: archaeological park, David's Center, yes, another perspective, the Western Wall heritage tunnels, and the third temple, the Temple Institute. And this different perspective according to the treating of the future. The West, these are the West's responses to the possibility of temples return, as saying in your words. The West's responses to the possibility of temples return, because future temple is always hovering in the air, in these places of proximity. Yes, and this is very these perspectives are very interesting. These temporal perspectives, and I would say some words about. I will say some words and ask some questions, talking about each of these perspectives. First of all, about David's Center perspective. It is absolute rejection of the future. Yes, that we can talk of the past and only about the past. Past can not affect our nowadays understanding, because nowadays is separated from past perspective. And this is archaeological site, you said, this is a museum, this is what this perspective. And I would ask maybe, here we could we talk about binary opposition between past and the present, between truth, secularized truth and religious truth. Because here I would say this perspective is like enlightenment perspective. When we demetologize, when we pretend to say what was false in the past and trying to say what is real in present, because we know what is nowadays truth, and we have this firm truth, and neglect and criticize perspective as myth, as always false myth. And maybe you after comment if this is binary opposition between these facts. And more interesting for me was another perspective, the Belt and Road Heritage Tunnels perspective, which you said is most popular, yes, nowadays, and most people come to this place and so on. And this perspective is equivocal. This perspective is completed with fear, repression, and caution of the future. Yes, because future is not so clear, but we are in a paradoxical situation. We can't reject longing of the future, but we also can't talk about it. And my special question would be about talking about this perspective. Is this opposition between being and appearance? And I will ask. And I will explain what I mean. Because you said that from Jewish perspective, Jewish belief in this longing of the future, in this future, but conflict is when talking about visitors. When visitors come to this place, it's difficult. It's difficult what to say for visitors, because when we say that we're longing for the future, it can complain and so on. It's difficult because of the appearance, or and talking about from this perspectives that we can say we know what is the truth in Jewish. We know what is the truth, but can't show it because it is sometimes to show what is real for us true. We can't show it. But is it only opposition between showing and being, or can we touch some trembling and fear talking about this being thought? Can we doubt in this truth itself, or it is only for appearance and visitors? Because as you said, it is not always wise to say exact truth, yes, but we know truth, or we doubt in this truth. Is it doubt or some nuances of doubt in this truth, or really Jewish don't doubt? They know what is real truth, but they can't show it. Is it being and showing, or is it some conflict in the being itself? Can we talk about this conflict? And I would recommend yet another author, such philosophical author as Danish philosopher Kierkegaard, who talks about religious perspective very much, and religious existential perspective. And here maybe it would be productive to integrate this author. Maybe he could deepen this analysis of the truth, of interpretation and truth, because this author talks about fear and trembling, and here we can ask what is the source of this fear? Talking about the Western world perspective, what is this fear? What is essential source of this fear? And here you talked about difficult future. What is this difficulty? What is essential source of this difficulty? Is it only for visitors difficult because we don't know what to say for visitors, because it is uncomfortable image, or is it some difficulties in the truth thought, in the truth itself, in interpretation the truth itself? Can we interpret this truth a little bit dynamically, or is it firm and unmovable? And about such things, it would be interesting to talk very much. And another thing, you talked about difficult future, which invokes disagreement and threatens consensus and so on. And you mentioned this political motive, yes, that this temple of the future should stay instead of Muslim shrine, yes, and this is of course invokes political struggle, and it is uncomfortable to talk about this because of political struggle. But this, yes, this is clear. But I will return here to the truth, to the problem of the truth. Are there some problems of interpretation of the truth for Jews themselves, not for appearance to the visitors, not for image, but for interpretation, for truth themselves, existentially or ontologically, I would say, and their existential perspectives could be interesting and existential and hermeneutical, maybe, such authors as Kierkegaard, Heidegger, and so on, Gadamer, maybe. And this is interesting. And you talked about symbol, about national symbols, yes, but this symbol this symbol inherits being in itself, being, ontological being, or the symbols become vast a little bit, or symbols which have being in themselves. And these problems are interesting for me, and these questions are interesting for me. The temple as a metaphor. What means temple as a metaphor? Metaphors and symbols open space for interpretations, for many different interpretations. But are these different interpretations maybe centripetal interpretations leading to the truth? Are these different interpretations a little bit how to say, a little bit conflict, this truth, a little bit injuring the truth, the image, the truth itself, or these interpretations lead to the truth and are only for the visitors. And another place, the Temple Institute, and here you talked about the future. The future here is undoubtful, yes, and the image of the future is undoubtful and difficult. There isn't any difficulty, yes, because from this perspective, looking from this perspective, maybe difficulty would be only the lack of believing. Yes, maybe we could say that this difficulty could be the lack of believing or not enough strong belief and so on. But for me, interesting was another concept of near future. I would recommend here one author, maybe you know it, maybe you know this author as Emanuel Levin. And this author talks about
Levinas or Levin?
Levinas, Emanuel Levinas. He talks about distant and very distant future, which is so distant that we can't reach, unreachable in principle. And maybe it would be interesting to talk not only about near future, but also about this distant future, and to compare these understandings of future, and is it and my question maybe would be would be this image of future interesting for Jewish understanding also, this future, distant future, or only near future? Because here, as I understood, you talk about near future, very near future, because even concrete vessels are testimonies of this future, yes? Because there are concrete vessels which will be used in the third temple, yes? This is very near future. And it would be interesting for me to talk about these different futures. And another question would be about authentic...
And the last one, okay.
Okay. About truth, authentic truth. This future understanding, does it mean reconstruction of authentic truth? Reconstruction of authentic truth, future as a reconstruction of past authentic truth of the past, or is it centripetal, maybe centripetal, but reinterpretations? Another question would be interesting. And another shortly about technologies. You said that there isn't conflict between technologies and sacrality, technologies and sacrum. And here I remember such authors, Eliade, who talked about this topic. But it would be interesting more about this technologies and sacrum understanding. And finally about this truth, overall fact. Finally question, does truth remains after all firm and unmovable? Does truth remains for Jewish such, or it becomes flexible, maybe leading to centripetal interpretation? Of course, not centrifugal as postmodernists would say, but centripetal. But does it become a little bit dynamic, or is it firm and unmovable? Thank you.
Well, you have many questions,
yeah.
But you're provoking because your material is so rich, and it's your fault that your presentation is so wonderful.
I'm so happy. Thank you very much. But I'm sorry that I'm so thankful that we're not in Israel, because no one has thrown anything at me yet. In Israel, that would be even, this is talking about this discussion. We spoke earlier this morning about the volcano. I know something about volcanoes. By the way, the Hebrew University is 10 minutes walk from this location, so we are in the heart of it. I will just say a few words before maybe we'll see if there is any other comments. You really hit the bedrock of the most. First, the question of truth. This is the building of truth. This is the question of truth. I have another article that deals with authenticity, which is basically the question. Okay, the temple is not longer there. So what is real here? And this is exactly what your first question was regarding the binary difference between religion and secular world. And I basically argued that there are three ways to say this is real. One is this is real because archaeologists said, so that's the object aura authenticity. The other one is emotional. This is real because you touch it and you feel emotionally connected. And the second one is the term I offer is the authenticity of the future, when something is real now because it will be used in the future. So the vessels are real because they will be used. So yes, exactly, the words you said, this is exactly the one that I use, the Enlightenment Project. And I also argue, and I agree with you, Davidson Center is epiphany of Israeli Enlightenment Project, of let's find the truth with the help of our rational tools, and then everyone will know the truth, and we can present the truth, which is of course very naive considering the fact that this is a place revolving a lot of beliefs and myths and strong emotional and political ties. Your second question was regarding the tunnels. Yes, there is a very, very strong eternal uneasiness with this question. It's not just for show. It's not just we know the truth and we are not going to tell you that because you are visitors and you can't handle that. When I spoke with my interviewees, usually only at the end of the interview will I dare to raise the question of the third temple, and this will be the reaction. Like, whoa, man, you don't want to deal with this issue, and they all expressed a lot of uneasiness, personal uneasiness with this subject. One of them, when I said third temple, she just started laughing, like completely losing it during the interview. Like she couldn't hold her seriousness, which was very interesting because this is a serious subject. So yes, there is a lot of eternal tension, and of course you hit also a very important issue regarding the question: is the conflict just between the Israelis and the Palestinians and the Muslims, or is it eternal conflict? I didn't have the opportunity. What are they afraid of? What is the difficulty here? So I didn't have the time to touch this issue here, but in the Jewish tradition there are two basically ways to look at the temple. One of them is the temple is going to come from the sky, ready, with the help of God, completely ready. This is the interpretation of Rashi, a notable medieval scholar. Another interpretation is the one held by the Temple Institute, which is that we need to build the temple now. We need to take the cell phone, sell it, use the money, and build the golden candelabra. And what was there is disagreement regarding that within the Jewish thought and philosophy. And what I found most striking and actually very sad is that during my fieldwork, I saw a lot of arguments in the Temple Institute, like people really getting into serious arguments. Never about the fact that the Muslim temple building is going to be removed. So one time I observed a teacher really angry, and she was saying to the guide, "What are you talking about?" And I thought she was going, "What are you talking about? How can you say something like that?" I thought she was going to say, "How can you say something like that? You are going to destroy the Muslim and Palestinian building?" But then she said, "How can you say the temple is going to be built with the hands of men?" So yes, there is an internal conflict, but it only comes within the question of who exactly is going to be building the temple, whether it is going to be us or God. So that will be my other paper from this Ph.D. project, deals with what is the space or what is the place of the other. How can we contain, because there are a lot of Christians visitors and there are Muslims living there, so what space is there for the other, what form and what interpretation can the tradition of the other take in this location, and how can otherness take shapes and form within this place of proximity, but that is really underdeveloped, I have to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a very precise question.
Yeah, microphone.
Microphone. Yeah.
Harder. Hold it. Maybe you can press another one then.
Which one?
Colleagues.
No, this one. Yeah, does it work? Okay. I'll be loud.
So it doesn't
So
work.
what is the status of this temple?
Yes, I have to.
Now you can try again. Just
What is happening in reality?
No, what is the status of this temple institute? I didn't get it.
Yes, this is, I can understand why you have to switch it up. I can understand why this would be an important issue, mostly in Israel. It is a very heated issue. The Temple Institute is a non-profit, non-governmental private organization